Hey friends, it's Laura with Laura's Handmade Haven. Welcome or welcome back. I'm so glad you joined me today. This is another video for our series on the Sweetland Sew Along with Lori Holt. Now she's using her Americana fabric line, which is manufactured by Riley Blake, and it is so gorgeous. And we've been working along on our applique and our piece blocks, and today we're going to tackle some of that piece border. Now this is going to be kind of like a little bonus video for you guys because I started looking through all the things we had to do, and I started looking at that piece border, and I was like, whew, that is a lot of flying geese. So there are 136 flying geese in the piece border, and as you may recall, we were cutting all of those out. We basically just knew that it was going to be either piece A or B for the border. Now I separated those and stacked those on a design board, and then I sorted all of them into the 136 flying geese that we have to make for that piece border. So I'm going to show you how I did that on design boards, and then we're going to head to the sewing machine, and I'll show you a couple little tips on just getting a little more efficiency out of your sewing when you're doing all of those flying geese. So without further ado, let's get started. Hopefully you've downloaded the sew along guide because you definitely need it. And you may want to do this before you start your flying geese. Now it's up to you. You can definitely sort as you go. You can grab fabrics as you go. You can just do your own flavor on it and just use the blocks as you see fit. If you want to create your quilt exactly like the sample, then this is what I recommend you doing. So the first thing that I would do is grab a design board and grab all of your A and B pieces for those flying geese. And remember to download that organization packet that I put together for you guys, because it does have the numbers of 1 through 136 for all of those flying geese units that make up our pieced border. So what I did is I had all of my A and B pieces on a design board. And what I did was I just used the sew along guide and went one by one and just matched all of those fabrics up, pinned them together with the appropriate number, and put them in numerical order on a couple of design boards. Now, my little empty pin cases are here to remind me that I need to put my pins back because that's where they go. So this is like my first design board. I do have 12 of my flying geese completed, as well as those four patch blocks that go in the corners of that pieced border. So what I've done is I've sewn up the first 12, and I've pinned the number back onto the center of that flying goose, and I will keep it with it until I start putting my piece border together. And that way it just keeps me organized as I keep going along, because I am not going to get all this done in one day. There's just no way. Now I know that some of you it may take you months or years to get this done, and that's perfectly fine too, but these little numbers are going to help you keep organized, and you won't lose track of what goose goes where. Organized in the box is one thing. Organized outside the box is something totally different, right? So what I've done here on my extension table is I've laid out the next 12 of my flying geese that are on that came from my design board, and I'm just going to start sending them through my machine. Now, what I'm going to do is, because this will work, promise, I'm going to lay one of my blocks to the side, and this is one of my wing units. It's going to go right up here, and it's just going to hang out, and it's going to be happy. My number and my pin is going to be pinned right into the center of my flying goose, because this pin is not going to be in the way of either one of these seams when I start doing my flying goose. And then this little square is going to go right where it's supposed to be. Now, if you haven't seen my video on how to apply just some simple washi tape to your sewing machine table, check that out, because it's a very easy, quick tutorial on how you can make your own seam guide. And that way I don't have to mark all of these squares. I can just sew and not worry about all those marks. All right, so I'm just going to drop my needle right in the corner, and I'm going to sew from corner to corner using my seam guide that I improvised and used washi tape instead of purchasing seam guide tape. And there's the first side of my first flying goose. Then I'm going to grab the next one, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Now I'm going to keep the extra blocks in order over here on my extension table. And I'm going to put that there, and I'm going to pin my number and pin right in the center of my block once again. Line up my corners and keep going. Now I'm going to put all of the one side of my geese wings on first. So I'm going to sew them all into place. So I'm going to keep going with this, and when I get the one side done, I will show you what to do next. All right, now that I have all of my flying geese, the one wing sewn on, I'm just going to stack a couple of them together and trim that excess off. Now, if you are a type of person that you want to save that excess fabric and make yourself some smaller half square triangles, then please, by all means, do so. I am just not that person. So you do you, and I will do me, and we will be happy. And yes, I am stacking 2 flying geese together, and I'm clipping 2 of them at the time. It just, I don't know, it saves me a little time. And it just makes me feel like I'm getting a little bit done a little bit quicker. Now, these are going to go over to the ironing board to be pressed open, and then we'll come back to the sewing machine. So I'm going to take you with me to the ironing board. Okay, so a couple things that go on at the ironing board are, one, obviously, we're pressing our wings open, right? Now, I would suggest, since we are putting these pins and we're leaving them in there, I would suggest you use some glass head pins so they don't melt under the heat of your iron. And then watch your numbers, because we're going to go ahead and stack these back in numerical order. And I'm just kind of watching the numbers as I'm pressing them open so I know which ones I have. So I have 13 through 18 right there. And I know I've done 12 through, or 1 through 12. Like I said, I'm just kind of watching the numbers, making sure that I'm putting them in numerical order. And I am pressing them open. I'm not like super, super worried about them being really flat, because, you know, I have that other side to do as well. And I will still be able to kind of finger press them just a little bit when I put them back to the sewing machine to sew that other wing on. Like I said, I would use a glass-headed pen, because that way you don't have to worry about melting any plastic onto your iron. All right, now these are all in numerical order from 13 to 24. We'll head back to the sewing machine to put on our other wing. One thing I didn't mention earlier that I typically do, but I forgot this time, was the type of machine that I am working with. I am using a Juki DX7. I do have the extension table for my Juki. I love my Juki. I'm using a 1/4-inch pressing foot, a Schmetz Microtech needle. I'm also using Mettler 100% silk finish cotton mercerized thread. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm using a straight stitch. I do have my straight stitch set at 2.2. And I think that's all the information that I typically give about my machine. So that's where we're at with that. All right, so remember I stacked these from 13 to 24, and I've stacked all of these to the side as I was getting them. So this is number 24, and that is number 13. So all I'm going to do is flip these over, put those right here next to it, and I will start pulling them off one by one, and they will be in the correct order. Now, I always have this wing to reference. So if I flip this over and I'm like, oh, wait, that's not the right fabric, I can always find it because I have this wing to reference to make sure I have the right color or the right fabric on the other side. And that's why this works. So you can pin that number into the middle, so you know that this is Flying Goose number 24 and this is Flying Goose number 23. And you have the other wing as a reference, and it's already sewn onto the middle piece. So you don't have to worry about getting confused with that. Now, like I said, I did stack those in order, and I did make sure that I kept my flying geese in order. When I pressed them, I put them back in numerical order, and that's just going to help me go through that stack really quickly and easily. And I'll have 12 more flying geese done lickety-split. All right, so this one I want to stop and just talk to you for a minute about directional fabrics. So if you look at this fabric, these are not circles, these are ovals. So if you go this way or this way, it looks a little different. If that doesn't matter to you, don't worry about this and just skip it and pretend you didn't even hear it. If you care, then you need to look to see how you sewed the first wing on. And if you don't know which way to lay it, just flip that wing down and you can see which way to lay the other side. So I can see the ovals need to go this way, so when I flip it back, they'll go the same way. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I do want my wings to match on my goose. So that's one little trick that you can use on directional fabrics to make sure your wings are going the same way. Now, if you have been quilting for years and years and years, I'm sure you're like, well, yeah, I know that. But I'm telling you, some of us, like myself, we are directionally challenged, and sometimes it doesn't hurt to hear it one more time and shown one more time. Plus, I'm really hoping there's a new quilter out there that's watching this video, tackling her first Lori Holt quilt, and that little tip will help her or him out immensely. Now you'll also notice that that little striped print was also directional. I did the same thing for it. Just kind of pay attention to which way the other wing was going, and do the same thing for the other side, and that way your wings match. Okay, so we're through the 12. We're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna cut them off the machine. And then we're going to go ahead and clip their wings, press them out, and we'll have another 12 flying geese done. Now, when I press these out, I will still put them back in numerical order. Now, you might be saying, well, why? Because they're labeled and who cares? Well, because my future self is gonna thank me. And when I go to put that border together, they're all going to be in numerical order, and they're going to be so much easier to assemble when I'm not hunting around for the next number in sequence. Now, if you don't want to cut these wings off by hand, you can definitely take them to your cutting mat, use your rotary blade, line it up for an exact 1/4 inch, and cut them off just like that as well. I'm just, I don't know, I'm a close enough, good enough girl. All right, so with these, I am just going to go ahead and kind of separate them into 2 groups. I'm going to do a 13 through, I don't know, 18, I guess, and just lay those right here. And then the 19 through 24, I will lay next to them. And then I have 24 of my 136 flying geese done. Isn't that exciting? Whew, that is a lot. I still have a bunch to go. Okay, so that's really all I have to show you about flying geese today. I wanted to show you how to get a flock of geese through your machine pretty quickly and efficiently, how to keep them in order, how to press them, and then sort them, and just make sure that you keep them in numerical order. If that's important to you, if you want to go hunting for your numbers, or if you don't care, if you just want to piece them however you see fit, please feel free to do you. This is your quilt. Customize it however you see fit. So for me, I'd like to be as close to the sample as possible. I have a few flying geese. I'll be honest with you that they're not matched up with the right wings because I don't know where I went wrong, but somewhere I was off. And it's going to be fine in the grand scheme of things, so I'm not like too worried about it. But this is how you can keep organized, keep your geese together, keep your flock separated, and make sure everyone is happy. And then your future self will thank you because you'll be organized enough to not have to hunt around and find where that missing goose is at. This was great. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you picked up a few tips. I hope that your Sweetland quilt is coming along fabulously. Until next time, find joy in all you do. Carve out some time for crafting and creating, and remember, it's always better when you make stuff up.